Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor Ipshita Bansal from BPS Women's University, Sonipat, Haryana. Today we will be discussing about the module Strategic Downsizing of the paper Strategic Human Resource Management. After studying this module, students will be able to understand various possible reasons for downsizing, the strategies of downsizing, and selecting employees for downsizing. One of the strong emerging trends of the current scenario in various establishments is employee downsizing. It is a necessary evil as cutting costs, budgeting, and staying at par with ever-changing business scenario is of crucial importance. Various studies have shown that the downsizers, in comparison to the organizations which do not downsize, do not produce any better output and results. Firms that lay off the staff without any conclusive amendments to the current strategies do not have a significant growth. Over 3 million Americans were given the pink slip in 2008. Surprisingly, a majority of the companies, precisely 81%, featuring in the top 100 companies in Fortune's 2009 list of best employers to work for, did not have any head cuts then. Downsizing is generally initialized in the times of a financial lumber or crash as a safeguard. The most successful organizations downsize more critically as one component of the entire staff planning. Layoff is just another part of solution to the impending problems of a firm. Management sees this method to increase the deftness of the firm through thought out structure, internal development, and coaching. So, what are the reasons for downsizing? Organizations around the globe downsize in order to get financial gains. The thought follows from the orthodox theories that the only ways of economic growth in the firm's output, limited overhead expenditures, or accelerating output via revenues. Limiting the cost indirectly increase earnings. Earnings increase stock prices, satisfying investors and analysts. The crowning phrase above is other things remaining equal. Firms overlook the contribution made by the staff and only focus on their overhead cost. Unfortunately, the expected rise in the company's revenue does not happen. Instead, other problems weed up like smaller pay grade, reduced business owing to less labor force, absence of innovative products owing to less R&D staff. As a general spirit of organization falls, it rapidly decreasing efficiency, having a proportional effect on productivity. The crux of the matter is that firms who have head cuts result in tremendous damage to the esteem of the staff. The output and productivity go down by an average of 8% in the following 3 years. Even though with all such negative reviews, firms still downsize just as an aping act, seeing other rivals do it. However, when a contemporary firm cuts pay, the other firm is left with no choice but to downsize. Honkos like General Electric and Procter & Gamble have witnessed a Herculean task growth in output from downsizing and redesigning business strategies. exemplifying how the process works. A lesson for the pool of firms which struggle even after downsizing to meet costs. Jack Welch's extraordinary feat in General Electric was brilliant, but a fair realization is required for all top management that such stunts are not easy to pull. Some companies downsize as the top-notch officials like CEOs are anxious about the backlash from shareholders and analysts. As early as the times prior to the declaration of the potential headcuts in Citigroup announced layoffs, whirlpool of critics insisted that the financial unstable tyrant needs to control costs. Although the layoffs didn't really better the stock prices, it was most certainly an alarm which the firms adhered to. The headcuts unfortunately didn't do much in the downfall of the Citicorp as it filed for bankruptcy in November 2009. Let's now try to understand when to downsize. Extreme precautions need to be taken while downsizing. Considering the potent impact of the economic crisis of 2007, many establishments had to face drastic drops in output. This lull bore more major impacts on solitary, single-line firms because the depression couldn't be tackled by upscaling or bringing in consistent scale. With the economic crisis, firms had no option but to downsize as a last-ditch effort to sustain. Here, the layoffs were triggered by an emergency. Sometimes, downsizing could be an effort to sink wider labor force planning in accordance to the holistic planning of the firm. For example, an organization that is looking to diversify and the satisfaction of various types of fresh customers might be inclined towards firing the staff who have a low skill index and redundant knowledge. This would open positions for hiring employees who are experts in their fields and have a broader knowledge base, apt for the adjusted business plan. So, what are the practices which should be avoided? Laying off is not always conducive as the expected growth outcome might not be achieved. Variation in work ethics and principles could have adverse effect like accelerated showing up for positions but deterred innovation. In lines of these firms such as Aflac, SC Johnson, Synovus Financial and Southwest Airlines have reserved from this method. Downsizing needs a dedicated, unabated strategy in place of volatile triggers. If in case of a knee-jerk trigger, the consequences could be long and dreary. Overhead cost and staff are seldom the firm's problems. They are in fact the pillars of production and innovation. As an analyst said, anyone can lay off personnel, cut budgets, and change an organization chart. It takes true genius and creativity to grow a business. So, as stated earlier, it is meaningless to lay off staff without appropriate changes in strategy. Downsizing in this case would simply mean piling the work in question onto less labor, directly denting efficiency. Eventually, the workforce is burdened and burns out, unable to function, causing more problems to the firm, and there is no hiding this from investors. The management is unable to get the workers interested in searching for ways to reduce costs, optimize and accelerate growth. The workforce at the grassroots level has a better vision and understanding of the potential saving areas as compared to the senior management. The partners of a firm who hold their stakes also get affected by downsizing, and taking this into account is imperative. The cascading effect of downsizing is tremendous, engaging all customers, producers and general public. This can be minimized by working with them, training and partnering with the experts. Downsizing strategies. First is attrition. Attrition is a gradual reduction in the number of people who work for an organization. That is achieved by not replacing those who leave. This method enables the staff to exercise freedom of choice on what kind of role they intend on taking up or to leave. The flip side of this is that this method is highly unpredictable and uncontrollable, but normal reduction of workforce due to retirement, resignation or death. Second is voluntary termination. Another method of downsizing labor force by incorporating buyout offers. This compensation is done to minimize the trauma of getting fired resulting in being unemployed. Ford Motor Company and General Motors have exhibited typical buyout plans of late. At Ford, the staff employed for 30 or more years were compensated with $35,000 for who could entail the entire retiree benefits, and a compensation of $1 lakh to younger workers who willingly declined the retiree health care and Ford pensions. The staff who took up some vocational courses or went away to pursue further studies in various universities were given the entire tuition fees, half their usual pay and full medical coverage. These employees were allowed to have the accumulated pension but had to let go of any retiree health benefits. Almost half of Ford's hourly production workers, that is 38,000 workers, accepted one of the alternatives. At GM, that is General Motors, approximately 35,000 employees received checks in the range of $35,000 to $140,000 to retire early. Early retirement incentives, that is ERI. This methodology believes in promising an ample retirement plan for the agreement of willingly quitting in a certain point in future on the employee's part. At times, early ERI is to dilute the inevitable accumulation of labor force and impending problems. A methodical termination requires to having retention bonuses with varied dates. The senior management would presume that early retirement is a channel to promotions for juniors. About a third accept the ERIs offered, but there are plenty of differences. Uninspired workers will accept ERI as they see no increase in pay scale or incentives are forthcoming. Compulsory termination. This is a non-negotiable termination and is a feature of grid shutting and complete removal of departments or business units. Even though this is highly unwanted by the employee, the management has an opportunity of laying down guidelines and restrictions required for the betterment of business. Such kind of downsizing is the danger signal for plausible lawsuits alleging discrimination. Staff selection layoffs. As downsizing is motored on a set of rules and criteria are put in place to decide the people to be let gone. The things which are must-haves in the criteria are: do not have biases around a particular caste, be logical and rational with no vague element, built on credible reasons in line with the firm's strategies and goals. So, we should not have to resort to across the board cuts. These give equal status of employees, completely forgetting about the significance of the mix of expertise in various departments. They just look at the overall outcome, eliminating the individual contribution of employees. Let us say one department has overachievers and the other underachievers. How would you justify the same percentage of overachievers and underachievers be laid off? Selecting the department on the basis of critical importance in the company's success is the rational way. In this method, firms retain stars of every aspect of business who show immense promise in the future. An establishment ascends in steps. Firstly, identifying particular departments or strata and then tuning to the overall numerous holds up or funnel approach. This route is focused on keeping the promising talent with crucial skill sets by adopting methods and incentives essential for the firm's success. The dedication and performance at work is the cardinal factor when there are more staff than positions in a downsizing firm. In practical terms, an organization retains skilled experts with good conduct during tenure. Sadly, most firms don't have a proper mechanism in store to measure the capability of an employee. If all the criteria like performance, expertise, and conduct are incorporated, some firms use seniority or the term served in office as a rule for layoff. In all downsizing events, the firm should ensure that they should conduct adverse impact study prior to incorporating a plan. They should jot down the basis of decision making in downsizing. The assessments and data should be looked at by law with specialization employment law. So, what are the practices to be embraced? The importance of laying down the ground rules to downsize is at par with laying down rules for evolving critical strategies. Following are some stable professional practices for the downsizing process. Be honest and open with the entire team, keeping them aware and updated with the status of working in the firm and vigilant about coming changes. The staff wants to hear the truth from the horse's mouth, being from the senior most management. The people are always sensible enough to gauge the impending troubles. Present continual, annual as well as periodic feedbacks, reports and updates on critical planning of the firm. Facilitate strategic thinking in employees by keeping them informed, training them to identify cost-saving areas and optimizing. Also, a sense of belonging will be imposed when the staff has the faith that management would resort to downsizing as a last option. So, what should be the practices to be embraced? Extend enough respect and a sense of indebtedness towards the fired staff. Ensure that procedures used to make decisions are seen as just and fair. Keep a flexible exit method for employees on the day of relieving. Motivate the retained staff and instill a sense of security. Study the consequences of downsizing on all HR systems. So students, let's now summarize what we have studied in these modules. Firms downsize for a number of reasons, which include cost cutting, market demands, economy of the country, restructuring, increased flexibility and adaptability, enhanced productivity, technological innovation, organizational politics, broadened skills bases by using outsourced labor, and in hopes of improving shareholder equity. Recent downsizing practices are attributed to the intensified competition, decreased product life cycle, escalating costs, and legal liabilities associated with employees. At times, downsizing becomes a necessity than a choice, but it certainly affects the employee's morale and increases the sense of insecurity among existing employees. Organizations undergoing downsizing should deal with the situation very carefully by following an effective communication strategy, ensuring fairness by providing a sense of distributive and procedural justice. Also, the legal considerations related to employees should be handled carefully. Thank you.